ask something you mentioned about how American school history classes don't present the information as if it's biased.
Mhm.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I remember you making a video a while ago and you were talking about the difference between, I can't remember, but you were describing what bias was. And I had a differing opinion on it. I can't even actually remember everything you said, but correct me where you disagree here because I think you will, but based on what I saw, is I always say that I am biased. I'm
Mhm.
biased all over the place, and I admit it. And like, there's a difference between neutrality and objectivity. And so, like, you can be objective about the facts here, but in my best efforts to present something objectively, I'm still going to be biased. And the example I like to use is
Yeah.
if I'm talking about geography, I'm going to be approaching this from an anti-flat Earth bias. Like I'm going to be like every time. And so but I think you said something that you disagree that bias is something that you can get rid of. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's not that I think that anyone is unbiased. Like everyone has biases, but it's like, everyone has them to a certain degree, like where you can't get rid of it,
Yeah.
like I'm going to have a bias that comes from being a woman and
Hmm.
being American and growing up in Texas. Like everything that makes me who I am is a bias,
Yeah.
is going to make me biased in certain ways. But some things are like, I don't think that we typically consider those things to be biases because they're so um everyone has them.
Idiosyncratic to every Indian.
Yeah, but like the person that I was making the video in response to, they were saying that I didn't understand what was going on in Palestine because I didn't have a family member that was in the Holocaust and I'd never fought in a war. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I haven't either of those things, but those things give you an extreme bias towards the situation because you're not able to see it objectively at all because you have this background that is making you, I don't want to say more empathetic, but like making you see things that aren't really there.
Hmm.
No, there is no actual objectivity. Like I don't
No,
believe
no.
that there is.
Yeah.
And there's no actual neutrality.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that attempting to be neutral is worse than not.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. We are in total agreement here. All right. Good. We're all right. That's all right. Good.
yeah. Because when you're, like putting extra weight on the scale to make them balanced, that's not fair. Like that's not actually neutral or objective. Like you're forcing things to be
Yeah.
balanced for the sake of neutrality, but that's actually putting a huge amount of emphasis on something that doesn't need to be emphasized as much and taking away a lot of weight from something that is a lot heavier.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'm talking about, voting, I'm not going to waste time saying, well, some people think women shouldn't vote. No, get the fuck out of here. Like we're done with that conversation. Like I don't need to
Exactly.
give equal time to absurd thoughts. And that bothers me so much because people like, well, you're not considering this movie. Listen, there are a million points of view you could have on any topic. So I'm just going to be honest. Like most everything I say is going to come from a left wing point of view. Take that for what it is. And if you're honest about it, people respect it. But it really is annoying when people say, man, I got no dog in this race at all. I'm just calling balls and strikes. Fuck you. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And it's lauded as something to be that we should aspire to. That's like, oh, you know what you should do? You should be completely neutral on everything and say, no, you're not. So quit pretending it.
Yeah. What I meant in that video more so, I see how it definitely would have came across that way, like that I was trying to say like, well, I'm completely objective in this. But I meant like as far as like the specific situation went, I didn't have any preconceived notions going into it. Um, so I wasn't, a lot of people have this thing where the first thing they learn is what they believe. And it's incredibly difficult to get somebody to change their mind after they believe that they know something to be true. Um, but I didn't have that. I mean, if you would have asked me about it a year ago, like if this would have happened a year ago, I probably would have at first been like, oh, poor Israel. And then I would have looked into it and I would have ended up figuring out, oh, never mind. And I probably would have ended up in the same place, but um, I knew a little bit about it going into it. Um, but I really knew about it from like a looking it up and researching it for the sake of knowing about it, not
Yeah.
like being told, oh, this is horrible. You need to learn about this.
Yeah. I like that. I like that line. Would you say that most people learn something and how'd you phrase that? You said the first thing they learn is what you believe.
Yeah, the first thing somebody learns is what they believe, and it's incredibly
Yeah,
difficult to change somebody's mind.
it is. It really is. And I I'm glad you brought the example with the Israel Palestine thing because it's been equal parts devastating and equal parts, somewhat hopeful that the solid narrative is that Israelis good, Palestinians bad. That's as far as you need to think about it. But this the response, the anti-Zionist response, is something I've never seen in my life. I couldn't imagine the upswell of support for Palestinian human rights happening even last year, let alone
Yeah,
5-10 years ago. So that, I mean, it doesn't do a lot to help the people that are dead or that are displaced or half of Gaza being destroyed, but I mean it's something, and that does give me a little bit of hope. I mean, for whatever that's worth, but it is good to see that.
yeah. I think, it feels like it does nothing that so many people do support Palestine and stuff. And I'm with you on that. Like, I was really shocked how many people were able to immediately come to that conclusion, or very quickly come to that conclusion. Um, and just from seeing the way that like Netanyahu and Biden and stuff have reacted to this, and the White House in general and Democrats in general, I don't think that they were expecting it either.
Nope,
And
certainly not.
I think that they've been really struggling to deal with that. And I think that anything that throws people like that off their game plan is good,
Yeah,
in my
yeah,
opinion.
totally agree.